Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have David Parrish with me here today. David is the manager at Hardwoods and the founder of Otter. We'll hopefully talk about both today. Welcome to the show, David.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Tim.
Excellent. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about your role right now at Hardwoods?
So with Hardwoods Specialty Products, we're a Canadian-based company. We're part of the Adentra family of brands out of Canada. Hardwoods Specialty Products is a wholesale distribution company direct to the fabricators and manufacturers of cabinets, furniture, home goods. If it's made of wood, chances are we're selling it to them. The Phoenix facility is one of the largest in the country for the brands, and it's a good time to be in the wood industry. For all the doom and gloom that people seem to think that's out there, it's still pretty active.
Right. What percentage of the timber industry is hardwoods and furniture versus construction softwoods?
Oh, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's minuscule. So if you were to figure, the Arizona market's $100 million, hardwood plywood market for our channel to market. The overall category for timber buildings, it's in the billions. So it's a percentage of what the actual market can be.
Okay. And specifically in the hardwoods area, I know people often like to work in exotics, right, from other places and stuff for the super fancy artsy stuff. But offshore production of things, how much of that is offshore nowadays versus, and like if it's come from China, for example, it's not using American oak, for example, and so different materials. Can you talk a little bit about those issues?
Yeah, every year we're seeing more and more. What we call them RTAs, ready to assembles, and it almost feels like a fly-by-night cabinet shop that pops up in a massive warehouse somewhere off the 10. They slap cabinet on the side of the building, and all of a sudden they got a warehouse full of sides, face frames, doors, and a plethora of colors, and they're going direct to end user or direct to Depot or Lowe's. It's a pretty significant number compared to what it used to be. The industry's really fallen off. Ever since I started back in 2007, it's started to teeter down. The industry that probably took the biggest hit was just furniture. So much furniture comes from overseas, and they are using American poplar. They are using American red oak, white oak. Yeah, so there is actually a lot of
the wood over, and then they chop it up and glue it together and bring it back.
They find a way to process it, better than we do for some reason. They're good at utilizing every ounce, every scrap possible. Really comes down to overhead labor. Shipping a boat from here to China's, a full container is $1,500 just for the cost of the container. So shipping wood back and forth is not the expensive part. It's the labor, it's the overhead. And that's why they can still make it possible to send it there, send it back, and do a number on our domestics.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how did COVID affect that industry?
COVID, everybody boomed during COVID, especially from the cabinet and furniture manufacturers. So we have some large scale furniture manufacturers here in the Valley, 3 pretty large scale ones, heavy into Wayfair. So people were buying online. So, Wayfair cozied up with these folks and they were selling a ton of furniture online. They almost couldn't keep up for a bit there. But then as people stopped buying online and started going back into stores, dealers went back to the overseas markets because they were able to get what they need. Everybody caught up. And so our domestic guys were sitting there twiddling their thumbs for a little bit.
Okay. And back to sourcing the wood, how much of it is Canadian? I know it's a Canadian company, but how much of the wood is sourced in the US versus Canada?
For what we do specifically, it's a small amount. We do buy MDF, medium density fiber board. We do buy certain decorative surfaces. It used to be called melamine. It now goes by TFL, thermally fused laminate. One of our biggest vendors is out of Canada, for example. And so, there are the hints and rumors that the tariffs are going to whack it all pretty good. The fact of the matter is, even if it got whacked 25%, it's still cheaper right now than it was during COVID.
Okay. That's how much prices went up in COVID.
Correct. Yeah. It was got to the point where it was gouging.
Okay. Okay. And what percentage, I'm curious now, of your products of hardwoods are put into cabinets versus furniture?
Heavy to cabinets. Definitely heavy to cabinets. Furniture makes up maybe here in Phoenix less than 10% of our overall business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
Okay.
majority of it's cabinetry.
Okay. And are these big shops, little shops, all the shops?
It's a variation. I mean, we've got one shop that's got 300 people. We've got one man shops that are working, out of their garage, and it's everybody in between. If they're a craftsman, if they own a business and have a business license and the right to do business in the state, we're selling them wood.
Okay. Okay. I know a few lumber yards in town. A lot of them are construction based. My son just finished his Eagle project and had a bunch of wood donated by Alliance Timber or
Hmm.
Lumber, um, off of what is that, 67th and Grand.
And grand, yeah.
Yep, yep. They were great. They were really nice. They've supported some of the Boy Scout projects in the past, and they were super awesome. But you guys don't do that sort of lumber generally. You do hardwoods, or do they also supply them with stuff?
So we do supply them. So,
Okay.
for example, if they've got a decking project up in Prescott or Flagstaff, and a lot of decks out here are concrete. But if they do a decking project at an Ipe or something of that fashion, an exotic wood, chances are they're buying it from us.
Okay. Okay. And how about who's the one I used to go to off of the 17? The hardwood place on the east side of 17.
You think a woodworker source?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So they're part of the Macbeth family of brands. Macbeth, gosh, I feel like they're based out of Salt Lake. But they're for the hobbyists. They're for
Right.
some,
That's me.
yeah, exactly. And so, we say they cater to the snowbirds. They do actually buy a fair amount of us, of their three locations, two here in the valley and one down in Tucson. They make up a pretty large customer of ours. But ever since Macbeth bought them, Macbeth has been transferring more of their wood and their product to them versus
Ah,
them buying from us.
I
So
see. I see.
unfortunate for us, but we're still great fans of theirs, because we don't cater to the hobbyists. We don't cater to, um, the guy that's making a custom fly rod or his own custom piece of furniture. We're
Right.
catering to the business people, the people that have the cabinet shops and they've got the licenses of the business in the valley.
Sure, sure. On that note, though, that's one of the questions I had for you was, do you do your own woodworking, or do you get enough of it at the job?
I do. I'm pretty handy actually. I've got a planer, I've got a joiner.
Nice.
I've got all this stuff. So my patio furniture, my my backyard. During COVID, my counterpart in the office and we were doing a week on, week off. So we were just trying to limit the number of bodies in the office during COVID.
Ah, right.
I built what probably would have been a several $1,000 patio furniture set. I built it all. My wife made the cushions out of sunbrella fabric, and we have a beautiful backyard
Sweet.
patio furniture set. And
Very cool.
it's still rocking.
Nice. That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Um, and how you've been there, you've been moving up. You weren't originally in Arizona with them, is that correct?
Correct. So I started May 7th of '07 in Denver, Colorado. Started in what they called the management trainee program. So they would take, young guys out of college, try and convince them, hey, it's good to drive a forklift in a warehouse, even with a college degree. And they start you from the bottom up. So like I said, I started with a degree from Creighton University out of Omaha, Nebraska. At the time, I was just using the job as a pass through. I didn't think 18 years later I'd still be doing this, but I worked up from Denver, Colorado warehouse in Boise, Idaho to sales manager of Boise, Idaho, and then from there ran the location in Kapolei, Hawaii for 3.5 years.
Wow.
They transferred me from Hawaii to the branch just outside of Seattle in Renton, Washington. And then in late 18, they basically said, "Hey, we know your wife's from Arizona, and we know you don't want to move back to the desert, but don't make us call her." And so they blackmailed me into moving back to Arizona, which has been a good move for the family. My wife's followed me around for the last decade plus, and the chance to bring the kids closer to some grandparents and family. It's been a good move.
Right. Okay. Okay. I'm curious now. How was the Hawaii 3 years fit in there?
I miss the fish. I miss the golf. So It was fun. The Hawaii location was great. My wife and I were newlyweds, so our first couple years out there, it was just us.
Very fun.
Grew the business, about 200% at the time. Just
Nice.
being an aggressive mainlander, which they weren't kind of used to out there at that point in time. And parlayed that into a management position in Seattle. And
Okay.
I would still take the Hawaii gig just because of the golf and the food. It wasn't even just the fish; it was all food. All food in Hawaii was
Right.
great.
Okay. Awesome.
But then
Very
I'd
cool.
I'd probably still be stuck there and weigh 400 pounds. So
Okay. That's okay. Very cool.
yeah.
And I worked one summer in college in a lumber shop, driving a forklift and so forth, rearranging everything. What was your degree in college?
Marketing and management, and then there was also kind of an emphasis on entrepreneurship. Starting your own business. Kind of bootstrapping things.
Okay, that's a good transition into what you're wearing.
It is. So Otter stands for off the trail recreation. Just a kind of a I hate saying side gig or a hobby or something like that, but it's a project of mine. It's a passion. I love the outdoors. I was never meant to be inside. I was never meant to be in an office. I was meant to be outside exploring, fishing, hunting, hiking, being away from humanity. I always joke that for being in sales, I hate people. Um, and it was created actually. I came up with the idea in 2016. My wife and I at that point were living in Washington. We were hiking an area called Franklin Falls, and we're coming down a pathway, and it's kind of a one way traffic. 10 people would go, and then 10 people would come
Okay.
down, and this guy got tired of waiting, and I had my oldest daughter at the time, and she was maybe 2 on my shoulders, and I'm walking across this log, and this guy comes barreling down, and it's a 45-foot drop. Basically,
Holy mackerel.
he would have killed us. The lady behind me caught me and my daughter and I, and slammed us against the wall to keep us from falling down.
Oh
And people
boy.
start railing on the guy, and I'm fuming, I'm livid, but got the kid on my shoulder still, so I'm trying to
Right.
hang on and get to the other end, and fuming the whole drive home. And at 3 a.m. that next morning, I woke up and off the trail recreation, Otter, and called a buddy of mine. At that same time, back in Omaha, Nebraska, he played baseball for Creighton when I played golf for him. And I leave him this 5-minute voicemail telling him the name, the logo, how I want it. And I get a phone call like later that afternoon going, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "Do you have it? Do you have my logo?" He goes, "Yeah, check your inbox." And I checked my inbox, and sure enough, that up there is my trademark from the U.S. Trademark Office. So kind of a
Okay.
neat thing there.
Yeah.
And so pet project, we develop outerwear, started manufacturing overseas first, trial and error. There's language barrier, time frames. There's a lot of barriers. Huge
Okay.
minimums. Even though it's cheap, you're still buying thousands of something, or hundreds, depending on the
Right.
style of product. Got to the point where it just wasn't worth it, and so I started researching domestic manufacturing. Found some groups in Utah, Montana, kind of finding them all over, and then lucked out finding a couple here, one in Tempe and one in Mesa. The one in Tempe is an incubator. They're a nonprofit
Okay.
incubator to help fashion entrepreneurs, because it's the fashion industry. And so cozied up with them, kind of got some of my ducks in a row, and then started fabricating out in Mesa. And so we develop outerwear. We've got a new series of sun shirts coming out this year called the Salt River Sun series. Everybody's
Cool.
wearing the long sleeve hooded sun shirts. I've had skin cancer removed here.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna have another one coming off here at some point in time. Uh, you know, Bathe yourself in sunscreen out in Arizona. Well, why do that when you could just wear a shirt? So
Right. Okay. Okay. And what sort of material is this? These are easy to get and source and work with here.
yeah, so some of the materials I work with. So for example, we're doing a merino wool beanie, 100% merino wool. The wool itself is sourced out of Oregon. Uh, you know, the story behind that whole source. This woman is the most interesting woman on the planet. Uh, her land, her sheep gets sheared. The wool gets sent back east, knitted back east, and then actually the beanies themselves are manufactured in New Jersey. Um,
Huh.
the textile for the new sun shirts I actually buy out of the country of Colombia. it's a recycled polyester with elastane or lycra in it. Super ultra lightweight, super silky soft fiber, and just easy to work with. And it's nice because Colombia and U.S. from a textile perspective have a good trade relationship.
Okay.
Obviously there's other stuff's exported out of Colombia that's not a good part of the relationship, but the textiles are. So,
Okay.
so yeah, it's more difficult than it used to be. So back east from Pennsylvania down to Carolina, that was the mecca of textile fabrication for the planet. We started shipping all of our machines, all our proprietary information. We started shipping it all overseas, and that's why it got so easy to make cheap goods overseas. And we basically were watching the industry die. You've got North Carolina State that's still holding on strong. They've got classes in textile fabrication. It's the studies that are going into it. People are trying to bring it back, and you're watching kind of a resurgence of U.S. manufacturing and U.S. textile manufacturing on top of it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know a lot about that stuff. I don't shop very much, but I do remember seeing like clothes made out of bamboo and other things, and some of these things that were, I guess, industry friendly or earth friendly, but also like surprisingly good qualities for weathering water and sun and so forth.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Bamboo has a great story. It's a fast growing plant, 5-year growth cycle. Same thing on the wood industry. We were selling bamboo panels, bamboo. You see, bamboo flooring was the most popular thing in the early 2000s.
Right.
From a fabrication standpoint, it's great. From a clothing and textile standpoint, super buttery soft, super great, heavy chemically washed to get that fiber source down. And a lot of people don't think about that. The amount of water that gets sent into bamboo and the amount of chemical to get it that soft and turn it into a good fiber source. There's other plants that have a better cycle or a better wash.
I see.
European beech, for example, is one used, and the name of the textile escapes me, but it's a better wash, a better fiber, and a greener story than actually bamboo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I was just trying to get at with these new fancy products, do they really bring the cost back up? Trying to get these super soft, durable, all these super qualities in one product, does that make them super expensive?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it really comes back to the fabrication side of things. Same with the cabinet and furniture industry.
It's your workforce,
it is
payroll. Okay.
So you figure every one cut of a jacket or one sew and seam of a jacket here in the States is, let's call it $2.50. Well, it's 25 cents in China. So to manufacture a garment, because you're paying the same for the textile itself, no matter where you source it from in the country or in the world, it's that fabrication. It's the overhead on the other end.
Okay. So has this been a fun challenge to be able to start using more of your marketing with your sales?
It has been fun. It's been an expensive challenge. When you're bootstrapping everything yourself and trying to get it out there, the whole marketing scheme of things has been more difficult because the way that Apple changed their rules. They changed them back in April of 2000 as far as the tracking mechanisms for social media marketing guidelines. So whether it's Google, Meta, whatever, the guidelines changed. So if you didn't start marketing prior to April of 21, you're already behind the 8 ball, and you're going to wind up spending a lot more just to get out there.
Huh. Okay. So is getting brand awareness the biggest challenge then?
It is, especially when you're a little brand. Everybody wants to cozy up to the Patagonias. They've got this beautiful story, green story. Everybody knows them. They want to be a part of them. And you've got these up and coming brands that are about a decade old, Cotopaxi being one. Their story was utilizing textiles that were left over from other firms and creating these one-off pieces. And even their story's changing over time, but it's people wanted to be a part of it because it was cool, hip. But it was also, they were able to blow the doors off marketing wise, because if their $1,000 ad spend back in 2018 versus my $1,000 ad spend now, they got 100,000 more eyeballs than I did. And, I could sit there and throw, I probably spent 10 grand in marketing last year, with pretty piss poor results, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's what they call now is the user generated content, the UGC.
Yeah.
So you're finding the micro influencers, the people that believe in the brand, they believe in you. And I've developed a really good community just here in Arizona alone. If you go through the followers on Otter's Instagram page, most of them are Arizona based people, and they believe in the brand. They believe in what we're doing. Most of them know where I live. Most of them have been to my house to come grab some gear, and that's it. And then, we've made a great relationship with some shops, just roughing it out there off of the 32nd and 51 in the Shaberhood. Just roughing it. They've been a huge advocate of ours.
Okay.
Because people want to try stuff on. And so for us to be able to get stuff in the shop and actually move stuff through the shop versus online has been quite helpful.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So what else sort of sets Otter apart? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's for me, it's the bringing it home. That's the biggest part. As far as the technology of the outerwear, the technology of the goods, everybody's caught up to each other in some way, shape, or form. It comes down to marketing, and where it's made. And more people are pushing it back against China. They're pushing back against Pakistan, India. They're watching all these goods flood in for pennies, and you've seen a whole movement of trying to bring it home.
Right, onshoring.
Correct. Yeah. And it's, everybody, they're trying to democratize fashion, make fashion more affordable by bringing it home. And they're trying to make it more readily available, because the more brands that can bring it home, the cheaper it will be to produce it here again.
Okay. So what's your big goal for let's talk about, just to keep on Otter. What's your big goal for Otter this year?
Big goal for Otter this year is the introduction of some of our newer parts. So, it's a little more difficult because most brands are planning 2 years ahead, and I'm planning one season ahead. So right now I've got stuff that'll be launching here in a few weeks. The new Salt River Sun series, the sun shirts that are coming out, that are for this year. They're in production right now out in Mesa. They'll be on the shelves April 15th, and that's when I can do it. Where the Patagonias of the world, they're already planning their 2027 line as we speak. And so for me, it's the catching up, trying to get, instead of one season to 1 year, and then eventually the 2 year gap, and just really getting ahead of everything.
Okay. I guess that's a weakness and a strength, because you can pivot quicker. You can get onto trends a little faster, maybe.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point, because it also, I limit the amount of waste that I have at the same time. When you're trying to plan 2 years in advance, you're planning on a color that's going to stick. You're planning on a textile that's going to stick, and
right.
You're planning on 100,000 units that are going to fly off the shelf at REI, and that may not take. They can completely whiff, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of wasteful textiles, and they're blowing them out the door, throwing them in the garbage. You've seen the Temu and the what's the other one? There's another one out of China. They call them fast fashion brands, and they're just pumping out fashionable stuff at such a rate, and it's just cheap garbage. And they're just waiting to see what sticks.
Right. Okay. Do you have any sort of other affiliates other than the store you mentioned, like your Salt River gear? Do you like Salt River tubing or any of those sort of things? Do you have any affiliate relationships with any of those sorts of groups?
Nothing really in the works with them, and that was one that I thought about going to with this, once because it'll be the hooded long sleeve version. It'll be just a long sleeve, no hood, and a short sleeve version for the men's line. Women's line will be hooded, a tank top, and then just a short sleeve kind of V-neck. I've thought about it, but the biggest part about it is it is cost prohibitive for them, because they're used to buying something from a Gildan or somebody else for $11.50 a piece. Hard to say, hey, you guys should pay a $60 wholesale number for mine because it's made in the States. So it'd be a little more difficult to get that type of stuff going for the time being.
Okay, right. Yeah. But yeah, they could have a high end line available for people who are interested and see how it goes. I guess, I don't know. Right.
I have had a couple of the rock climbing places here in town. Another guy that does mountaineering, and does guided tours, wants to have his own stuff branded. So we're working on that, but he wants a dozen or 2 dozen maybe.
Right.
So it's not in the hundreds. It's small scale, but it's a way of getting the brand out there.
Yeah. For sure. Okay. Very cool. I like to have a reflection question at the end sometimes where you can see, what do you wish you knew about building wealth or success earlier in your career?
For me, it would have been, there's certain times it's just better to slow down. It's better to not just go out there, throw a bunch of money at something and hope it sticks. That leads to, poor investments. It's the fear of missing out. And that's caught me in the past. I'm in my 40s now. I've been guilty of making stupid moves.
Okay.
Pissing away tens of thousands of dollars. Now I'm in a fortunate circumstance to where, we've got a really solid 401k. My wife has a solid 401k. We invest heavily in our health savings accounts. We're trying to max everything out at the same time to take advantage of that. And then it's money we don't touch. We leave it alone. We're looking at property. We'd kind of touched on property a little bit, and so we're looking at vacant land. I'm a craftsman. I love, I could build a cabin with my own hands. It would take me time, but I could do it. And something like that would appeal to me versus
Okay.
buying something that somebody else made.
Right.
That type of investment, something that my kids can enjoy, my grandkids down the road can enjoy. Those are the types of things I would like to be getting into.
One of my friends just built a cabin up in Prescott by himself. Well, he had different subs come in for certain things, but yeah, he did a
But
lot of it.
you're saying he GC'd himself basically.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and that's 30% savings right there on what he would have paid somebody else to do the same thing that he knew how to do.
Right, right.
Yeah. No, I just, I was fortunate enough. My father was a CFO growing up. Before he was a CFO, he made stupid financial mistakes. He was always that one kind of playing catch up, for the longest time.
Oh, okay.
And, grew up poor kid in North Las Vegas, joined the Air Force, went to Creighton University, and he made his wealth by, moving up the ladder with a casino group in Vegas. And it wasn't until the latter part of his career that it all paid off. It was hard work. He always seemed like he was playing catch up. But same thing, I was fortunate to watch some of the moves that he made, try and not make some of the same stupid mistakes. You can't avoid them all.
Sure.
But yeah. So.
Okay. Well, that's one of the common answers I get is people who say, I wish I would have started sooner. Not that they're necessarily playing catch up, but most people say they didn't appreciate the effective time on investments, and a lot of people say they wish they would have started sooner. Okay.
Well, and that's something through the lumber distribution, I've got a 23-man team there, and every time I onboard somebody, I've got some really young guys, and I walk through them with it. Hardwoods does a 4% 401k match. And all of a sudden, I notice these guys aren't putting into their 401k at all. And I say, guys,
Right.
You're giving up free money. And I walk them through it. And I break down their paycheck. I break down what they're going to see, what they're not going to see. And I said, listen, you put in that 4%. That's not even actually disappearing from your paycheck on the end. And I said, and you're getting a free match. And walk them through it and say, hey, in 30, 40 years, by the time you get ready for retirement, you're going to be sitting on X. And it's mind blowing to them. Something so simple and such a small, minute amount to start doesn't really affect them. And it's a bummer that it's not taught. Like, you can't teach it at a school level really not until you go to college. And most of those guys don't go to college. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, also one thing, a lot of younger people, they all think that's in the long distant future and I'm going to live forever. It's not going to be a problem.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I talked to him, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I got wasted at a bar. How much did you spend? A couple $100. And now you got to wait for your next paycheck, and
Right.
just, and not making them feel small about it, but showing them kind of, hey, that's an error. And I know it's an error because I made those same stupid mistakes coming out of college.
Yep. Yeah. And part of it's not a rite of passage, but it's kind of like touching the stove. You can tell somebody not to touch the stove, but they kind of need to touch the stove.
Yep. Yeah. And it's true. It's, I joke with my wife all the time. My kids will do something stupid and she goes, well, what if they do it again? I go, honey, it's natural selection.
Yep.
Which is a terrible thing to say about your own kids.
Well, no, I mean, it's a testament to your bloodline that they survive.
Exactly.
All right, David, if people would like to connect with you and learn more about Otter or Hardwoods, what should they do?
So Hardwoods, like I said, is part of the Adentra family of brands. We're publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and I don't know the ticker symbol, that escapes me, but you can look up Adentra, Adentra, on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Healthy company, healthy brand, has been in acquisition mode for the last decade plus. Brilliant executive group running the show there. Happy to be a part of that team. As far as Otter goes, you can go to OTTR-inc.com to go to our website. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, the plethora of social medias. Or head over to Just Roughing It off of 32nd and Shea and go talk to Ray and Debbie and buy some gear from them.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you very much, David Parrish, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story and insights into success and woodworking and entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, this was fun. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect, and yeah, it's fun being able to talk about everything that's going on in the world. So
heck yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.